we created a curated design sprint and helped better envision this complex idea of what the 86 acres of Tropicana Field and Historic District could be, and help build these prototypes which reduce risk, reduce cost. Basically what would take months, we did in a few hours.
These proposals take at least 3 to 4, if not 6 months to put together, and they cost anywhere from a quarter to $500,000 to put together.
This concept of sustainability we often associate as just environmental, but it's much wider than that.
It's almost like we're watching like a reality TV show unfold within our own city.
It's really hard to take the future and think about it now. It's really hard to take this complex problem and to make it tangible. What happens if we started creating experiences to help us understand what that future could look like?
Hello, you beautiful people. Welcome back to Talkin St. Pete. I am your host, Ryan Bogden. I'm super excited about today's guest, today's topic. I think a lot of you may know about the big 86-acre development project going on. But before we get into that topic, I want to let you know that this podcast is sponsored by Bogden Homes at Keller Williams St. Pete. So if you need anything in the real estate world, or you just want to chat, you want to know what your home's worth, find our contact information in the description below. We'd be happy to help you. And now I got my awesome friend and guest, his second appearance on the show, Steve Diasio. Did I say it right?
That is.
Okay, great. The founder of the School of Creativity and Innovation, and he just led a workshop with the Sierra Club, hearing the voices of the citizens of St. Pete of what they want for the 86-acre development project of the historic gas plant district. And boy, we got a lot to say about it. Steve, welcome to the show.
Thanks for inviting me, and I'm happy to be here, Ryan.
Well, no, dude, thank you for inviting me to be a part of the workshop on Saturday. We've been on the news the past, 2 times in the last week. My mom is really excited about it.
Making mom proud.
Yeah,
Made it, Mom.
Yeah, right. And this topic is pretty, well, there's some controversy around it. There's a lot of opinions around it, and it's also crucial for the next 25 development years and then to the next 100+ years going forward for St. Pete. So it's cool to see you lead the way. So tell us what's going on. How'd you get involved?
We ran, on Saturday, November 1st, we ran a community design sprint with the idea of getting closer to the community to get their feedback and to prototype ideas and pilot them and then continuously share and get feedback around that. And the idea is this. One, it's a best practice within the design and innovation space, and it's tied to urban development. St. Pete has a long history of innovation. We talked about that on our last segment about how it changed the world. And the School of Creativity and Innovation focuses on developing these immersive experiences, if they're learning, training, problem solving, and that's what we did in partnership with the Sierra Club. The Sierra Club is a very old, historically environmental conservation non-for-profit, but they also advocate for sustainability, resilience, and many in the broad scope of sustainability. So having been working with them for 9 years, they wanted to raise the profile of the discussion around the historic gas plant district redevelopment or Tropicana Field redevelopment and voice their viewpoints and their constituents of what alternative options there are or complementary options there are in this redevelopment. So, of course, sustainability was a big topic, but this can mean many different things. And so we created a curated design sprint, meaning there were exercises, design challenges that built off of each other, where these different groups were able to build prototypes and help better envision this complex idea of what the 86 acres of Tropicana Field and Historic District could be, and help build these prototypes which reduce risk, reduce cost. Basically what would take months, we did in a few hours, which is cost savings, more tangible products and ideas so people can visualize, experience, and say, we like this, we don't like this, we can envision ourselves in that. So that's a bit about what we did on Saturday, November 1st.
Yeah, no, it was interesting, and you had pinged me, a week prior saying, hey, this thing is going on, as this unsolicited proposal from ARC Investments and Emerson Development Group was submitted to the city in the beginning of October, I believe. And so I obviously, we've all been watching what's going on with the Trop Field, with are the Rays staying or going, and ever since the roof blew off and the hurricanes and the Heinz deal fell apart. And for those of you listening, just to catch you up, this has been, this development project has been talked about for the last 5+ years, even prior to Mayor Welsh, right?
Yeah.
And now the hurricanes and whether the Rays are staying or going has caused some controversy in the next development project. Since the Heinz deal, there was a deal that was already done that had fallen apart post-hurricane. And so now the city's in a place to where they need new opportunities and new developers who want to come to town and do this project. And but however, a formal request had not been put out again, as it had been in the past. And so now ARC Investments, Kathy Woods, who's already developed some property here in the area with their Innovation District Center, and Emerson, local development, have teamed up and put together a really unique proposal, right? There's no critique at the moment, at least from me, about the proposal. Can we agree on that, Steve? I mean, is there any critique?
I would like to see the 98 page. I think the community would like to see it.
Yeah, I agree. We haven't, but from just high level of what we've seen, it's not far-fetched, but to your point, there's still lack of transparency on the whole thing. And then, so because of this, I just want to give some background, and we'll talk about more what we did on Saturday. Because that proposal was submitted to the city legally, the city has to open it up for a minimum of 30 days to the public to allow other submissions to be sent in. Now, they gave a pre-warning to their actual date that the clock would start. So their city's saying that they gave 60 days. And this is going to occur in the middle of November and end in the middle of December, which is over a holiday. So really your 30 days is less. And the community, from when I was researching and looking into, is that these proposals take at least 3 to 4, if not 6 months to put together.
You want the best ideas too.
Right. Yeah. So when you want multiple ideas, and they cost anywhere from a quarter to $500,000 to put together. And so there is some controversy in the development space of those who actually can make moves and put a team together, that they haven't been given a fair shot to submit another proposal for us to get the best of the best. And not saying that the ARC Emerson deal is not, but we don't have anything side by side to compare it to. Am I describing this well, Steve?
Absolutely. And it also kind of limits what ideas can be put in there, who, and maybe even ideas that push the boundaries of what urban development could be. So it costs a lot. It takes time, partnering. It's a large project. It's possible we get a lot of small, different proposals or smaller proposals. Like I know Pinellas County Housing Authority made a proposal for, not for the 86 acres, but for
a portion
of it. And these are good ideas, and maybe we get more, but at the same time, maybe some of them could be incorporated in a bigger idea or multiple viewpoints. Some may be more focused on sustainability, maybe some more focused on the future of the workforce. Maybe some could be focused on building that unique vibe and continuing that vibe of St. Pete. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And so there's a time crunch, and there's many moving pieces, and the 30 days or pseudo 60 days is a tough challenge for anyone.
And so through my investigative research, I heard from 3 different sources of people who were directly in the mayor's or the mayor's staff ear about that, to which then Mayor Welsh put out an article in the Tampa Bay Journal stating that there won't be an extension and that the 30 days is more than enough time, and that it's really 60 days because they gave a warning to that. But even 60 days is not enough time. So there was just already some controversy on the back end of that. And I don't know that the citizens of St. Pete are fully aware of that, because you don't really realize the complexities to put together such a deal. And so on Saturday, what I thought was unique of what we did, and Stevie did a great job leading the workshop of, okay, well, let's hear from the people that have lived here.
Yeah.
And let's see what they think that this historic gas plant district should look like. And of course, those that have been here a long time are going to have a different viewpoint than an out-of-state or developer or new money that's moved into the city that has a vision for it. And I'm not knocking it. I think my big thing was, and your whole thing is innovation. My thing is innovation. I think we need to use that land for innovation in how we do zero emissions and how we do new renewable energy, but also a space where people come to collaborate to plan the future.
Yeah.
I don't know, Steve, what do you think? Like, my whole thing, and through that whole thing, is I found so many people who are still so upset that there's that we're like holding on by a thread here on keeping the raise here. And I'm just so confused by it, because you think there'd be more support from the administration on keeping the raise here. I mean, what was that brought up at all on Saturday? I know I had to leave just a hair early.
Tangential, really.
Right.
Because we were focusing on how to experience the 86 acres or the community and neighborhood. And one thing that stood out was they want to be a model for the rest of the world. And that means around the sense of, they framed it around the sense of belonging. Mm. The idea that this needs to be a neighborhood for everyone and uplifting everyone. And frankly, I think there's a lot of value to that perspective. What that looks like, I think there's piece of a pie for everyone, because it is a unique piece of property. It's large. It's in this wonderful city we call home, St. Petersburg, Florida.
It is one of the largest urban development sites in the country.
So we have an obligation.
Yeah, right. Like, it's a big deal.
We have an obligation.
That's what's frustrating from the administration standpoint of, this is one of the largest urban land developments in the country. Yes, we've taken 5 years and we've gone proposal, blah, 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 back and forth. But now here we are again, an opportunity to do it, and we're going to rush it and say things have to be sent in 30 days.
That was one of my motivations. The idea that if St. Pete wants to be innovative and continue its history, then we also have to think about new ways of how we're collecting the voices, how we are creating a series of steps to make sure that we are on this path to create something that's uniquely St. Pete, that can be identified from the different communities. And I think this human-centered design approach, using technology as a way to prototype, that's what Helsinki does. That's what Barcelona does. That's what London, Paris, and these cities do, and the top urban designers do. So I'm curious to know, why can't we be innovative about the process? Because technology has changed. The feedback that they received prior to COVID, and frankly, the world has changed. The hurricane came. We have different feelings now about what we want for that 86 acres. The economy has changed. St. Pete has changed. So we need to do things differently and use the best practices, tools, technology, and innovative ways. And if other cities can do it, I believe St. Petersburg, Florida can do it, and that's what I want to be a part of.
Yeah, no, you're leading the charge in that, and Saturday was cool. You know, it definitely brought new light and different perspective to things for me, to hear what people cared about. Because I'm in my bubble, right? I'm watching things about AI. I'm talking to business owners. I just think about that. I'm not thinking about the person who's lived in that neighborhood for 50 years. Not that I'm not thinking, not that I don't care. Let me, just because it's not my everyday thought doesn't mean I don't care. And so being in the room and hearing him, like, okay, no, that's a great point, super important. We need to make sure that's addressed. Great point, super important. Make sure that's addressed. Someone shared stories of growing up with asthma because their neighborhood was next to the highway. Like, that's terrible, and so can we create a new neighborhood that's not putting off emissions,
Yeah.
Which St. Pete's already a super walkable city, so to make it even more walkable would be really unique. my whole thing right now with this whole proposal thing is because, and nothing's going to get figured out in the meantime, but because the trop and the raise are still such in the air, I talked with so many local business owners whose businesses on Central and other parts of St. Pete are down this summer. There's a couple factors to attribute that to. One, baseball wasn't here this summer. That's about 1.2 to 1.3 million people that didn't come through the city this summer. That's a lot of people.
Yeah.
So you have businesses that are built now on that amount of traffic that felt it.
And they're paying that rent.
They're paying that rent.
Yeah.
Yeah. The rents did not go down because the people were not here. And in the same token, we didn't get our some visitors because of hurricane stuff, right? But I think that a big contributing factor, I mean, that data alone, 1.2 to 1.3 people did not visit or come through St. Petersburg because baseball wasn't here. That's huge.
And that trickles down to jobs.
Yeah.
That trickles down to quality of life. That means feeding your family.
Yeah. So my point in that is that, okay, if the gas plant district is not going to have baseball, what is it going to have that's going to draw people in?
Yeah.
Because I don't think it's a space to where, my opinion, it's not just going to be a neighborhood that's built and there's no visitors there, right? There's going to be some type of epicenter, whether that's a theater, a music venue, whether that's an arena of some sort. There has to be something because now everything's been built off of that hub of amount of people. My point, my opinion. I don't know.
Can I push or throw some ideas out there?
I love it.
What could draw a large amount of people willing to spend money? And what has St. Pete been known for? Of course, tourism. There's probably different types of tourism. And people have regularly come to Florida and St. Petersburg to extend their life. Extend their life meaning retire, the snowbirds come down. And what do they need? What do we have here that is plentiful? Healthcare to support older generations who are going to continuously live longer. So is there an opportunity for a wellness innovation district, a wellness innovation medical tourism, where we're using the innovation tools, technology that's evolving to help sequence DNA, genomics, robotics to help? There's a lot of money in medical tourism, and I would argue to a certain extent we already do that, right? When snowbirds come down here, they need health care down here. Mm-hmm. And you could imagine a state-of-the-art, world-changing hospitals, clinics, unique innovation medical centers that are at the forefront of making the quality of life for not just St. Petersburg residents, but for the region and for the nation. Mm-hmm. And they'll come down here and spend lots of money. Mm-hmm. And that is also producing lots of good jobs. Mm-hmm. Nurses, radiologists, doctors, everything that goes in that. And then all the technology that complements that.
I love that. And I think with the last deal in the Heinz deal, there was the cancer center that was a part of that people were super excited about. So that's what I think, there's just, even for us talking about it, like we're going to be missing pieces of this puzzle. Yeah. And it's because it's so scattered all over the place. And, the conversations I was having, I can't even say everything that was being said, but there's also a political game being played here, right? If we're just going to zoom out, and as it would, right? Mayor Welsh is up for re-election next year. So if I'm him, I need to push something across the line that looks really good in my chances of getting reelected. So I can understand why he's coming from that front of like, we got to push. But my question is this going to make it past city council, right? Because it's not just up to one person. And so I think there's a lot of politics involved in this, as there is of any development project, let alone a development project of this scale. And so I think we have to be sensitive and aware of that, which I don't think it creates the best environment for innovation and getting the best thing that we need for the city.
And my question would be is why wouldn't you want citizens' input prior to the proposal to help advocate for these voices and to help level up the ideas from the community for better proposals, small, big, large, and get out front of that? To me, that would be...
So you know what they'll say?
No, I don't know what they say.
Well, that they've already put an RFP out, which is a request for proposal in the past, So all those guidelines are out there from the last time, right? But here we are at this time, a post-hurricane, different environment, third rendition, fourth rendition, however many renditions is at it, has nothing changed? Why not go through a formal process like we have in the past? Just because Kathy Woods, who's local, and no offense, I think it's amazing. Like, I think it's really cool. When I saw the headlines at first, I was like, oh, this is phenomenal. Before the announcement of, well, now other developers have 30 days to put their things together. I'm like, whoa, that doesn't feel good. That doesn't feel good. That kind of tells other developers, we've already selected our deal, so go ahead and quickly try to put a team together and spend your money, but this is the one we're going to roll with. So it just seems unfair. I just like a level playing field.
It does get the conversation started, which I think has a big role in restarting this. I also see that, the world has changed. For us to assume that the comments and ideas that happened during COVID are the same now, I think that's naive. And if we don't acknowledge that life has changed and the world has changed, and therefore we need to re-engage with the community, I think it's always almost putting our head in the sand.
Yeah, you're talking about 5 years, right? A lot happens in 5 years. We weren't talking about ChatGPT and AI in the same fashion 5 years ago that we are now, which has changed so many people's lives and will continue to change people's lives. And there probably needs to be some type of infrastructure thing in the city around that.
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm just talking here, Steve. I'm just sharing. These are just my thoughts, and everyone's just being privy to them, whether we like them or not. And I don't even know that I fully agree or disagree with any of them. I just know since we've started down this journey, I've been bombarded with information, and so now it's just trying to make sense of it. And what can we do, right? And what are you and I right now, even on the show, right? We just want to share our voice and opinions from things that we've heard through your workshop and through conversations that I've had, and we're fortunate to be close to a lot of people that are in positions that are close to the fire of this situation. And so I'm just really, it's almost like we're watching like a reality TV show unfold within our own city.
I think there'd be great docuseries coming out of this, and it could be a home run too.
Right, I think so. No
pun intended, I guess.
Yeah. Could be a home run. Yeah, no, all the puns intended. I mean, yeah, maybe that's the documentary. But wouldn't it be a crazy twist? St. Petersburg, Tampa Bay Rays stay in St. Pete, the documentary, right? And the journey that they've been on to be here. But I'm not sure. I've heard all kinds of things, and most of the consensus is that the Rays are going across the bridge.
I've been hearing that too for a while. We'll see what actually happens.
Yeah, I don't know. I can see there being a play where that stadium's gone in 10 years, however many years. Like they're gone, they're done. Their lease is up in I think they have another 4 or 5 years or something like that. There. I didn't bring my iPad, so I don't have all the information in front of me. But let's say the stadium gets demolished, something else cool gets built there, it becomes a thing, baseball goes over to Tampa. The thing that from the conversations I had is that the stadium in Tampa this summer was not sold out, and it was not that big.
Steinbrenner?
Yeah, and it's not that big.
That's a beautiful place. I've been there a couple times.
Beautiful place, but not that big. And not sold out. So if there was such a demand, where was it? Just what I'm hearing on the street. These aren't my thoughts. These are the thoughts of the street. Yeah. Yeah. I don't know. So Steve, so from this, what was your biggest takeaway from the workshop, hearing the citizens' voices? What was some nitty gritty things that turned on a light bulb in your brain of something that you haven't thought about before?
This concept of sustainability we often associate as just environmental, but it's much wider than that. And what really was being highlighted was how sustainability could be the thread to lower housing costs. How are you going to get affordable housing? By lowering the bills to produce it, maintain it, pay for it, live in it. And I think that's a very different perspective than what we think of when we think of sustainability. And doing my own research, when you start looking at the leading cities who are adopting sustainable practices in urban design, and that includes using AI and using all the technology, they're reducing their carbon footprint. They're being more efficient with the cost. That lowers the cost of running the government, the energy, and that trickles down to people to make it. Imagine if my air conditioning or electric bill is sometimes $150 to $200 a month. Imagine cutting that to $50 a month. That's how they were framing what affordable housing could look like, or some of the triggers and levers. For me, that was fabulous. The same thing when they were talking about sustainability around Booker Creek. Well, they're saying that right now it's not sustainable or even polluted, and I haven't tested that, but it doesn't.
Polluted.
It doesn't look so.
It's polluted.
But some of the ideas was that could be used as both, when they say sustainability to resilience, a place for the overflow of water. Of course, that's going to continue to happen. Rain, rising, whatever, water. And then using that with natural plants, walkway, and then using this as a kind of a multi-sided, enjoying it, restoring it, and then using it as a tool to help make St. Pete and that neighborhood more resilient. So we start seeing the dynamics of this viewpoint of sustainability. One group, which I thought was fascinating, from Campbell Park. To be fair, I don't know too much about Campbell Park. All I know is obviously there's a big divider between that and the 86 acres. And obviously their first goal is, can we get rid of I-175? I don't know if that's possible or not. But if not, could we create a cover where now we have green spaces on top of that? And then they even created a vision where you could imagine dynamic parks on top that are honoring the neighborhood and building this transition between these neighborhoods. And then you have a viewpoint of the skyline in downtown St. Pete. Of course, there's going to be a skyline, and is a skyline along Central, and then things popping up on the west side. And you can start seeing, you can be raised, because of course it'd be raised over 175, viewing the sunrise, the beautiful sunrise of St. Pete, and at the same time, the skyline all along your view, and then the sunset in the west. And that is something that I never thought of. And this is creative ways. And these are the brilliant ideas that I know can be found throughout our community. And we need to bring those up in the discussion.
Yeah, that's a great example of how, going through your workshop, you just are toying it. Like, if there's anything, like my degree is in innovation management, entrepreneurship and innovation management. I almost forgot for a second. But in the innovative process, we go through exercises of ideas, and that there are no bad ideas, because that one idea could lead to the next idea that leads to the next idea that leads to the idea that's actually really, really good. And we never would have gotten there if we didn't start with the initial idea that we maybe looked at a little funny. And so to that point, like parks above the highway, like that seems like a cool idea. Now, is it feasible and possible? That's where getting the team together, with architects and civil engineers and all the people to figure it out. But why not be innovative and just dream and see where the dream takes us? And St. Pete is such a special place that we have to be careful with this development. And it's not something that I think should be put in stone, that we say, hey, in 2025, 2026, we decided this, and that's what it's going to look like in 2050, because we're in an adaptation world right now where things are moving so quickly, right? To have more of a master plan of like the sections, something of medical is going to go here, but we're not sure what that's going to look like. Something of innovation is going to go here. Something of sustainability, something of generating energy. Here's a green space. Now, as we get to that part of the project, let's see where we're at in the world.
That's a unique approach that other cities have done. where maybe the city has developed some sort of master plan broadly and then starts aligning developers, funders who might be interested in collaborating and doing that. And then it becomes hyper specific, or like almost a hyper urban design approach. It's more moving parts, but we might actually be more flexible in that way, more adaptive, like you said. It would take a certain level of leadership in order to do that, and capabilities. And I think we have that here. I don't know what that looks like, but
we need leadership who's not going to care. This can't be, there's always a thing, and we're all guilty of this. Like if you ask me about my why, I've said legacy for years, right? And so there's like this thing of like, well, I want to leave this mark behind as my legacy, as any type of leader. But on a project of this scale, I think we have to remove that, because it's going to be so many probably generations that get to claim this, right? And to make it to what it really could be. And at the same time, I'm not a developer at the moment, right? I've talked to a lot of developers. I'm sharing a lot of their thoughts, right? And then I've taken my interpretation of them. So I don't want anyone coming at me of, Ryan, you have terrible ideas. Well, these are not necessarily all mine. These are ideas of very, very smart people who are smarter than me, and I'm just sharing what they've thought. But this whole thing is crazy, Steve, and I'm glad you got me in the mix, because it's been a fun ride so far. So what is there anything else, and like what's the plan? And that's where you and I like I've had discussions with you of like, how much influence do we really have? And I think we're hopefully making an impact right now with the show, right? But it's like you and I have been spending a lot of time on this. And I'm because of the tight deadlines and knowing what's going to unfold after the mid-December deadline. Okay, maybe we got a couple other proposals in there. Did they really have enough time? Maybe they were already cooking on them, or they just tweaked the proposals that they submitted before. Now the city has to go up for that. What's going to make it past city council? Then we get into this whole thing of it's election season next year. By the time this is moving through, Mayor Welch gets reelected, plan continues. He doesn't. Does it start all over?
Well, maybe we can think about how do we mayor-proof the proposal? That is a brilliant way of thinking of how we can to develop that. Maybe it's, looking at it from many different angles, and maybe thinking differently how we redevelop, or how we have been doing that in terms of. I would be open to explore that with developers,
I'm
architects.
Curious. This is, as you were saying that, I'm curious of the process, because Hudson Yards in New York City has been an ongoing, long project, and I'm sure there's politics and everything. There's corruption and everything. You don't want there to be, but it's somewhere. Even if it's someone took $1, right? There's some kind of corruption somewhere. But maybe we got to do a little more research on how they approach that because that was a massive undertaking in New York City, in a very busy, dense city. And Hudson Yards, if you're not familiar with that project, go Google it. I mean, it's I don't know how many acres it was, but it's a massive project in New York City, and it's taken many, many, many years to complete, and I don't even think they're completed yet. So I wonder what their approach was like on that. I don't know.
I think we need to get inspiration from many successful places, locally in the state of Florida, in the nation, in the U.S., and then even abroad. Because one thing that keeps coming back to me, at least, I've spent a fair amount of time abroad. And when I recently have gone to Copenhagen, they have a major river running through the city that has boats and, manufacturing things going through. And people are swimming in the water because it's that clear, that healthy, or clean. And I'm thinking, why can't we do that? I mean, we are so dependent on our environment for tourism, for economics, and jobs and life. How do we bring that to the forefront? Not in a way of like it inhibits us to be a better society, but its survival is deeply tied to our prosperity. Mm-hmm. So I think about that. I think about what does our future. It's really hard to know what's going to happen in 25, 30 years. And there's going to be a totally new group of people living in St. Petersburg, and that community serving the whole city very differently. And it's really hard to predict and forecast. So are we getting the youth's feedback? Mm-hmm. Because they may have very different values than different generations. And one thing I'm happy to share is I'm continuing to collaborate with the Sierra Club, and we're running these design sprints continuously, and we're going to aim for getting feedback from the youth through different high schools, because one of the things that Sierra Club has been successful is getting commitments from several city leaders and governments to move toward being 100% renewable in that direction. And that's their agenda. But have the youth. I've taught thousands of students, and the environment's important to them. Sustainability is important. Quality of life, inclusiveness. This is something that always comes up in their work. So we need to look into other generations and get their feedback, because that will help spur our ideas and even come to better solutions.
I agree. The young are smart, and they see things a little bit differently just because they're growing up with the technologies, and they're seeing, they're just, it is going to be their world, right? You're talking about St. Petersburg 25 years from now. It's 2050. I think about how old I'm going to be then, and it's really freaking creepy in a weird way. Right? To think they'll look back and be like, in 25 years, Steve, we're going to be able to watch this video. We're like, why isn't it a hologram? What's going on? I don't know what to make of all this. I mean, I think it's cool. And again, this is not us bashing the ARC proposal. I think it's fascinating.
Yeah.
I think it's
There's
fascinating.
A lot of great things, I'm sure.
In the same breath, it does make sense to create a fair process for those, especially previously, who maybe had designs in, proposals in, that wanted to tweak them to make modifications, that submitted something 3 years ago. And we don't know all the dates and timeline because this whole thing has been going on for so long. But
can I pitch an idea?
Always, yeah.
It's really hard to take the future and think about it now. It's really hard to take this complex problem and to make it tangible. What happens if we started creating experiences to help us understand what that future could look like? And therefore, it's a lived experience now to know what it could be in the future. That could be a combination of experiencing it, but also providing feedback and getting more people involved in the development, in the feedback loops. If other cities can do it, why can't we?
Yeah. So what would that look like?
You could imagine that it being thematic. If it's maybe one day of sustainability where we highlight the best practices of sustainable urban development, we bring in companies, businesses, developers that focus on these products, so we can know, having solar doesn't impact whatever. We demystify a lot of the assumptions that we have, and it might provide clarity in X, Y, and Z. Another theme might be entertainment. Well, entertainment means a lot of things. So what could all the different types of ideas of entertainment be? And maybe there are companies willing to fund that entertainment and also put an experience together so the citizens of St. Pete can experience that. Think of it as like a thematic-based South by Southwest, a thematic-based, I wouldn't say conference. I don't even think that does it justice. Ways of, this is how Disney prototypes its parks and experiences. In fact, one reason that I wanted to do this in terms of the design sprint is I've had an opportunity to work with Disney Imagineers and helping to reimagine Shanghai Disney. And these are the process and steps they do. They know what they're doing, Disney. Mm-hmm. I'm not saying we are Disney, but we can partner and collaborate with other groups that put and use best practices together to ensure that we have a better solution.
Yeah, I'm with that. I think part of the problem is the populace, the citizens, the government are tired of going through this. As you know, we heard from one of the news journalists that he's been covering this story for like 7 years. Right?
Fatigue.
There's fatigue. And so, you know, when you talk about, well, we want to draw this out another 6 months, however long, I see that. And I'm playing both sides to the coin right now because I think it's fair, right? But I think the biggest thing for me is like, let's continue to have conversations. Let's see what we can influence. Because even if it is, whatever deal does go through, there still can be influence on that deal. And obviously we're using our biggest megaphone at the moment. You know, even being on the news. It was funny being on the news. Nothing to the news networks. Love that, and I think their distribution is great. But I'm like, you know what's funny is I think some episodes of this show have gotten more views than probably the news anymore because just the way social media works when things go viral. And that's what we want to do. So anything else? I don't think there's anything scheduled or coming up, right, for us to talk about, to promote.
Nothing set right now. Sierra Club, I'm working with them to formalize the data that was collected, to create a few different artifacts, assets, and reports that might summarize some of the main findings from our design sprint that could feed into other developers, designers, and even existing proposals. So if there are developers out there or those willing to collaborate, please reach out to Ryan and I, because I think we have a front row seat. We have insights and deep connections that we want to make the best situation of this for St. Petersburg and its community.
Yeah, I want to see progress. I want to see fair progress. That's where I'm at right now. In this stage of the game, I want to see the ball moving, but I want to see it moving by the rules that are fair, right? We don't like a rigged game. So that's it. So you have anything else? I think we wrap it here. To be continued, right? We're going to say to be continued. So if you're still with us and you're contributing your voice, comment, like, subscribe, reach out, share your insights on the historic gas plant district. Share with a friend. Let's share the vision and voice of St. Petersburg and the future for 2050. Sorry. And where can they find you, Steve?
STEVDIASIO at googlemail.com or stevediasio.com.
Google Mail, you mean Gmail?
You can also use Gmail.
Is Google Mail a thing?
It was before Gmail.
Oh, okay.
That just shows you how old I am. I got before Gmail.
When you said that, I thought you made an error. I'm sorry. No, that's great.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, you've been in the tech space longer than me. Yeah, no, it's great. Innovative guy. Sorry.
St. Pete is stronger together.
Yes, 100%. 100%. So thank you, everyone. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you on the next one. Bye, everyone.